just how I'm feeling, though I never wanted you another way. But baby, it's been on my mind, and you know my face can't hide it. So take my hand and hear me when I say, don't you know that I'll be there for you, with a love to get you through the night, yeah. And I'll be there for you when everything is out of sight. You got it, baby. One more time, you got to get it right and walk it by this life with you. And honey, if you die, then I'ma get you by, but you're already lied.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 81 of the Adam Makes Beer Industry Pro podcast. Today, I'm excited to be chatting with Tonya Cornett of Up Liquids. Just a couple pieces of news before we get rolling. I will be at the Ohio Craft Brewers Association conference in beautiful Dayton, Ohio, January 26th through 28th. If you are in the area, make sure to register. It's going to be a good time. I'm going to be giving a talk on recipe formulation and attending the conference as well. So we'll get a chance to high five, and you can drink a beer, and I'll just look longingly at you as you drink beer, and maybe I can have a cocktail. AdamMakesBeer.com is now live. This is your home base for all of the educational content that I have for you. Jump on there and also check out all of the services that I provide, whether that be on media, consultation, marketing, all that good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, starting a brewery is a big step. Blickman Engineering is here to help. Since 2006, they've equipped hundreds of nanobreweries for success. Their new 3.5 barrel Pro Surface electric brewing system cuts maintenance and saves at least 30 minutes per brew day with powerful under kettle heating. From 1 to 15 barrel brew houses to keg washers and grain mills, Blickman has what you need. Ready to go pro? Contact Phil or Tom at ProSeries@BlickmanEngineering.com. Blickman Engineering is a proud sponsor of this channel and loves to help brewers at every stage of their journey. Tonya Cornett first discovered beer in the mid-1990s while living in Colorado. After a few years of hands-on industry experience, she decided to commit academically to brewing. She attended the World Brewing Academy, a partnership between Siebel Institute of Technology in Chicago and Doman's Academy in Munich. After graduating, Tonya assumed the brewmaster position at Bend Brewing Company in Bend, Oregon in 2002. In her 10 years at Bend Brewing Company, she honed her craft, earning 8 GABF and 4 gold medals at the World Beer Cup. In 2008, Tonya was honored as the first woman to be awarded the title of World Beer Cup Small Brew Pub Brewer of the Year. In January of 2012, Tonya joined the 10-barrel team as the Senior Innovation Brewer. Her favorite part of brewing has always been recipe design, so when offered a position that centered on research and development, it was hard to refuse the possibility of bringing her small batches to a larger audience. In 2023 was an exceptional medal count year, gaining the 10-barrel team Large Brewery of the Year at the Oregon Beer Awards, and unprecedented gold, silver, and bronze at the Festival of Barrel-Aged Beers in Chicago. Building on this momentum, Tonya and her team achieved a bucket list moment by sweeping the German sour category at the 2024 World Beer Cup. That's awesome. Tonya was also honored at the Craft Brewers Conference as the recipient of the prestigious Russell Scherer Award for Excellence in Innovation, an award voted on by past recipients. Not one to rest on her laurels, she backed this up with 6 medals, the highest medal count of any brewery at the Great American Beer Festival. Believing that there is a return on investment when entering competitions, Tonya is extremely proud of the work she's accomplished leading 10-barrel. Tonya is now the brewer owner at Up Liquids in Bend. Tonya, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I have to tell you, I always get a little nervous before I start doing things, but I've wanted to chat with you for a long time. I'm very excited. I've been loading up on all of my Tonya Cornett research in preparation. So it's really fun to sit down with you today. What did you have going on at the brew house today?
We did some canning earlier today, and it's just like I always do an inventory on Mondays, so just doing that kind of stuff.
Sure. What do you run for a canner?
We have an American canning.
Yeah.
It's a forehead, counter pressure. So it's, we haven't been open that long, so it's new to us, and so we're still really trying to figure it out, get it dialed in.
How many months in are you with the new project there with Up?
We opened June 5th.
Okay. And how long were you brewing prior to opening?
I think 2 months.
Okay. So I meant for Up, not prior to that. Okay.
Yes.
So for a couple months, a lot of times when I talk to people that are helping to launch a new brewery, they oftentimes find themselves in the situation where they have a plan for how many times they want to be able to brew or how long before they open the doors that they want to start brewing. And usually that plan does not go according to plan. And they end up opening with less beers on than expected. How did that go for you?
I think we had 12 beers on, and a lot of the reaction was people were surprised that we had that many on, and they really loved kind of the variety that we had. So, we're good at what we do. That was no problem to hammer those out.
Sure. And so you mentioned 12 beers or 12 beverages, because I know it's Up liquids. Talk to me a little bit about the range of that opening portfolio that you're pouring.
Oh gosh. I think we had probably 3 IPAs, a couple sours, an amber. We're definitely like bringing back amber. I think it's good to have in rotation, and people who are traveling to Bend to come drink beer, there's a large portion of them that request amber. So we did a steam beer, which was very tasty. It's our little take on that amber slot. And then a couple dark beers.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting, especially in a pub setting, the legs that style of amber has? I think sometimes when we're brewers or beer geeks or whatever, we can kind of overlook that style, but people are interested in drinking it, especially in a pub setting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It might not be the thing that flies off store shelves, but there's definitely room for it. I've been in Cincinnati for 5 years. We moved down here for a brewing job, and we had an amber on at the time, and pretty quickly I wanted to try to rotate it over to like a German or like a amber lager, just because I wanted to make more lagers. But I just think it fits it fits a key niche in that setting. What's your amber like? Is it like an American style? Oh, you said steam.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So it just has a little bit of a fruity character. Easy to drink. It just fits that slot nicely. I think I would also like to start working on an amber lager. So that's kind of in the tentative plans for the near future. And then going back, I forgot, we had probably like 5 different lagers on as well for our opening.
Well, and it's always interesting because, regionally, you don't know exactly what's going on. I feel like on the East Coast, the IPA game seems to evolve pretty rapidly. It seems like new styles, new takes on things spin out from that side of the coast more often than not. Getting back to the amber type concept, whether it be the steam beer, or if you were to roll that amber over into more of a lager type approach, I think amber is interesting because so often people like I remember coming up as a home brewer, that was like, oh, well, this is where the caramel malt goes, right? This is like the style where you can really, just slap a whole bunch of caramel malt in there. But there's different ways to build those beers. You can make them kind of more caramel forward, a higher residual sweetness and whatnot, or you can go drier with those. How do you prefer to build an amber like that?
I prefer drier rather than it be syrupy. So I think the terminal gravity is coming in. I want to say 2.2, 2.3 Plato, something like that. And I think for the first time out, it was actually Ben, who's one of the partners. He was the brewer that was at 10 Barrel in San Diego. And it was one of the recipes he was kind of known for. So we just kind of have retooled it a little bit. And really the only feedback that we got on it was that it could use just a little bit more hop presence. So the next time we'll juice those up and see where it goes. Yeah.
Do you feel as if those preferences, like saying that a beer like that maybe could use a little bit more hop preference, do you find that is still something that is regional?
I think perhaps, but I was really talking to my friends who are beer judges, and it's like, if we're going to send it to competition, that's when you need to start thinking about just upping those hops per style, just making them a little bit more dominant.
Sure. Is that primarily your focus when you're brewing beers, is keeping in mind a style guideline? And if so, are there times where you go outside of that?
I do always kind of think of that when I'm developing a recipe. I'll always refer back to the style guidelines to see exactly what they say, especially if it's a classic style. If it's not a classic style, then I don't worry about it.
Sure.
I don't always think about beers in the framework of competition. I think some things are great. You can design beers specifically for competition, but I think there are other beers that just don't quite fit, and so why worry about it?
Sure.
I give myself that leeway.
Sure. When I'm always interested in people's take on this, because sometimes I hear people say, and this is in reference to making lager or something like that. Well, they'll say, well, you're brewing a lager, you probably really have to keep, you really have to be on your toes today, really be on your process. And I think sometimes people think the same thing about competition. Is that a concept for you, or is that just an overarching idea that this is just what we do all the time? Do you put beer into tanks specifically for competition in that way, if I'm making sense?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. We try to do this with all of our beers every time we brew. We always strive to make better beer than we made the day before. That's kind of our thing. But I would say when I'm brewing beer for competition, especially one of the big ones, I just try to get in the right mindset. I want the day to go well. I set myself up for success. I don't want to be distracted. I don't want to have to be cleaning a tank and harvesting yeast and do all those things. I want my mind on the brew. I don't want to be distracted. So.
Yeah. How many people do you have on the floor on any given day doing brewery things?
So right now it's just Ian Larkin and I. He is also one of the business partners. So the story is there were quite a few of us that got let go last year from 10 Barrel, from the innovation team. They pretty much wiped out the entire team. So we were all in the same boat. We all wanted to stay in Bend. And so we set about very quickly decided that we all still wanted to work together and set about trying to find a brewery. So we exhausted a couple opportunities in town. They didn't pencil out. And then we were talking to the owners of Immersion about tenant brewing.
Mhm.
And then their brewer quit and they needed help. So we said, of course, we'll help you. So we helped them for about a month. And then pretty quickly it turned to, we really like your name, the whole concept. We like you guys. Like, would you consider buying in? So it just was kind of a win-win for both parties.
Sure. Sure. As we were reading through your bio, you've had a tremendous amount of success in your brewing career. And I know that sometimes I think the brewing industry is interesting because I've heard people say that the industry is 99% asshole free. Have you heard that? Have you heard that before? Have you heard people say that? Um,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, I get what people are saying, but sometimes I think maybe one of like the dirty little secrets or the thing that isn't necessarily spoken about quite a bit is ego is a real thing. And I'm not immune to it. I don't think anybody is. It's part of the human condition, right? When you have the level of success that you've had in the industry, when it comes to ego and things like that, how do you remain focused or humble as a brewer?
Well, I think early on when I first started, winning a few medals, having a few articles written about me, it does kind of go to your head. But I quickly realized if I came across like that, people pulled away. Like I could feel them kind of close off to me. And I just made a conscious effort not to do that because none of us really like to be around someone who feels like they know more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm a pretty simple person and very approachable. So
Sure.
I just kind of stepped back from my ego and said, this isn't how I want to portray myself.
I like that. When I watched we talked about it just before we went on the beer movie that you were
Yeah,
featured
Beers of
in.
Joy.
Beers of Joy. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was watching that movie and I was seeing you in Germany, there is that would be humbling to me. Like anytime I'm around beer's history, the I don't know, like when you get very close to like the origins of something, whether that be a raw material thing or go to a place where there's tremendous beer tradition or tremendous beer, um, that's one of those things that always that helps to keep me humble because I realize so much of what in general we're doing as brewers is, sometimes we might color outside the lines a little bit, but very rarely are we, rewriting what's been done. And so much has been given to us. You had talked about your team that you work with, and obviously you wanted to stay together and work together. What do you think are some of the factors that make your team work, or the relationships that you have work within your team?
Um, I don't know. We just work really well with each other. We communicate really well. And I think that that's really important. There shouldn't be any big surprises with us because
Mhm.
we've known each other. We worked together for 13 years. So,
Yeah.
you get to know people, their family after that long.
And
So,
that's unusual in our industry too, really. I mean, the number of people that have worked with somebody else for 13 years is pretty wild. When you say about communication, would it be possible to drill in like an example? Is there a way, is there something that you've learned about working with each other on the communications front that you could share with us?
gosh, there's nothing I can really think of. But just to say that, like, we, um, I don't know. We're just very straightforward with each other
Yeah.
and we push each other to be better at what we do. And, we're constantly reevaluating process and flavor and the whole thing. So we don't get wrapped up in kind of feeling like if we're critiquing someone else, we never feel like it's against that person.
Hmm.
Or, I don't take it personally when we critique my beer.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that's going to be changed the next time. And I've just never got caught up in that, because I think you can really get in a weird headspace if you're constantly feeling like that's a personal assault on yourself. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mentioned before that, kind of a goal as a team and for yourself is kind of always getting better. And I really love that. There was a period of my brewing history where I had this very, very unhealthy mindset. And my unhealthy mindset is perfect case in point. I was going to make Municalis for the first time on a production size system. And I had this thing in my head that I needed it to be perfect. The first time I'm brewing something, just even saying that you're going to do the perfect thing, but you know what I mean? And so I realized that I was consistently doing that with, I was constantly setting those expectations for myself. And I became much happier as a person and as a professional when I kind of refocused on always getting better. At this point in your career, some people might say, with your experience, with the wins that you've had, where is that space to make up? You know what I mean? Because you have had so much success on the competition side. Where do you find that there's still room for you to improve in your game as a brewer?
I just constantly try to learn new techniques, new ingredients, like constantly trialing new ingredients. I just don't think any one person can ever know everything about brewing. There's always more. And with all of the new products coming out these days, like, you have to kind of keep on top of it. It's hard work to trial ingredients. So I'm just constantly looking for new flavor combinations. Just like, I feel like once you get in a good kind of routine and you have a good momentum going with your brewing team, or if your brewing team is just one person, when you get in that good groove, you have to kind of continually work at it. I have found that brewers that kind of rest on their laurels, people get disinterested. Like, you have to continually present new things to keep the excitement.
Yeah. Where do you think that goes? Something that I don't understand. And I know everybody's not built the same way. Like, I understand there's different people, some people do this job just because, like, it's a job and it keeps them near beer. I don't understand that. Like, there's other jobs you can be doing where you can make more money and you could afford more beer. Okay.
Well, I think those people don't last very long, right? They get in it and they realize it's hard work. Their back hurts, they have to get up early in the morning, and they're kind of in and out.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to one of the things that I really love to focus on as a brewer, and I think that if you go into a brewery that has a lineup of beers made primarily by one person, you should kind of be able to taste through those beers and start to get an understanding of the voice of that brewer. Okay. So, like, case in point, me personally, one of the things that I work really, really hard at doing, whether I'm making IPA, whether I'm making a lighter lager, I like to generate bold flavors and aromas, but I really love striking balance. To me, balance, and whether you're talking about a bitterness to sweetness ratio, or an acidity level, or something like that, or even just the range of the way you're comprising your grist. I love creating balance, because I want to have a situation where, like, the dream is only prudence stops somebody from drinking one of my beers. Right? Like, the nightmare is saying, oh, you got halfway through one of my pints and you're wishing you were drinking something else. So the thing that I really chase is just that just that very well balanced, super drinkable beer. What for you as a brewer, if I were to come in and taste through a lineup of beers that were created by you, how do you feel as if your voice would express?
Well, I also really care about balance. I think I'm very good at figuring out that balance. That's been one of my superpowers. I have a friend who says that he claims he could pick my beer out of a lineup just because of the balance.
Yeah.
Someday I'll challenge him on that. But that is really important to me. But I think through the customers that have come in, I think really the voice of our brewery is diversity, like really putting out lots of different kinds of styles, and putting them all out in a way that they're all delicious, and making people want to try things that may be a little bit out of their comfort zone. So for instance, for our sour beers, we started calling them tarts. And the reason why we did this is I feel like sour just immediately stops some people. They're like, nope, don't do sour. That's not my thing. But it's like, just try it. And it's because the acidity is in balance. It's like a little bit exaggerated for the fruit and whatever the fruit might be, but it's not like crazy. It's not going to, take the enamel off your teeth. Yeah, that's what we really strive for, is high drinkability. Especially now that we're owners. You want people to drink more than one.
Yes. When you were talking about striking balance in beers, from a practical standpoint, can you talk around that a little bit? And because I always love to pick brewers' brains on, like, okay, so you really love to strike balance and have balanced beers. When you think about creating balance in a beer, what are like some of the parameters of that in your mind? What are the things that control that? And then how do you manipulate it?
Well, it certainly depends on whatever style it is that I'm brewing. And my mind automatically goes to like either blended beers or sour beers, because those you have a lot of control over, because you're kind of adding fruit after the fact, or blending you have total control based off of what the beers that you have to blend. So for those, what I generally do, if I'm adding any ingredient, I'll add it slowly, keep a tank recirculating, and just add it slowly. So I don't have buyer's remorse. I don't get in and then like, oh no, this ingredient, I overdid it. Like, oh no, that's the worst. And then there's not much you can do at that point. So you can't take it away, but you can always add.
Sure.
And I don't know, as far as balance, like it's hard for me to describe exactly how I parcel it out, because it's just something I do. It's just really natural.
So let me bounce something off you, because in my mind, this is how it works in my mind. You can let me know if it makes sense to you, and feel free to say no. So when I taste beers with my brewer friends, oftentimes my palate prefers beers maybe about 1 tick, maybe 5 IBU lower than other people. And I just know that. That's just my palate, sitting around, and not to say something blasphemous, but if I'm going to be drinking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale with some people, to me, that beer could be just a touch less bitter. And I get it, but I just know that that's my palate.
Right.
And I also know, though, that in order to, I tend to build beers in a way that I can be on the lower end of the bitterness spectrum, but I also feel that really needs to tie, in general, very directly to the amount of residual sweetness in that beer too. So if I find if I dry that out, I can pull that bitterness down, and then on a beer style, rather than having this many people drink it, I can maybe get this many people to drink it. Does that make sense?
Yes, complete
Yeah.
sense.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I've definitely been noticing, like in this neck of the woods, of course, my friends come and they drop off cases of beer, and I will usually at least test the terminal gravity just to see where they're at, because then I can figure out where they started.
Yeah.
I don't have a lab anymore.
Yeah, I
I
love
used
it.
to just send it to the lab and
Uh-huh.
get a whole analysis, but
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I try to get as much information as I can, and really noticing that a lot of these beers, like where we like our IPAs around that 2 Plato mark, 2
Mm-hmm.
Plato mark is
Mm-hmm.
kind of my happy place, because I like it just to have a little bit of tooth to be
Sure.
able to balance that bitterness. Finding other people are down. We had one the other day that was 1.4. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, that is dry. And
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
personally, it was a little unpleasant to drink.
Mm-hmm.
I could take
Mm-hmm.
a few
Mm-hmm.
sips and it was good for a few sips. But then after
Sure.
that, like it just kind of, my teeth felt like they were, chalky, and it was kind of cotton mouthy. And it
Sure.
was probably a hop choice as well that I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't care for. But yeah, those are all things. I also try to learn from other people's beers as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm designing a beer, I feel like I usually have a pretty good idea in my head of the direction I want to go. And
Mm-hmm.
the beers where I have less of a clear path, I feel like they never turn out quite as well for
Mm-hmm.
some reason.
Sure. Sure. So this is kind of one of the things that I like to talk about. I feel like you can make balanced, clean beer, okay, and then that should be like the baseline, right? Your beer is clean and shelf stable and is balanced, and but then the other thing, at a certain point, you can start getting into, the way you're handling yeast, the recipe build stuff, the water stuff. But one of the things that I've kind of been caught up on over the last few years is final pH in beers, and kind of where that. I mean, obviously, we want to be in the food safe range, which can be interesting with some of the very aggressively dry hot beers, getting that stuff pushed back up. But how much is final pH a part of your thought process? And do you ever do any adjustment on the cold side prior to packaging to hit certain limits with beers as far as final pH goes?
So I know that a lot of people do
Mm-hmm.
change their pHs, especially with some of the new IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, ours ours tend to be consistent enough that if we're going to make a big change, we'll make it at knockout.
Mm-hmm.
We'll plan it that way instead
Mm-hmm.
of doing it after the fact. And I think it's more habit than anything else.
Sure.
We just haven't seen that it makes as big of an impact for us and what we're
Uh-huh.
doing to do it
Sure.
that way. And definitely, one of my friends got a hold of me not long ago, and she said, I think we have an acid problem in Oregon. Like, all these beers are so acidic, like verging on sour, and they're IPAs, because so many people just feel like that's the answer. And I don't
Mm.
necessarily think that.
Sure. Do you have ranges that you like beers to be in? Are you kind of 4-4 across the board, or does it differ by style?
Um, Gosh, that's a good question. Of course, anything that's a tart is going to be a lot more acidic. We're
Hmm.
down, I think, in the 3.2 to 3.6 range in that
Yeah.
final pH. And then once we add fruit, then that'll go up a little bit. Um, but yeah, I would say that's not a sword we die on
Sure.
for
Sure.
any of our beers, as long as they taste great coming
Yes.
out.
Yep.
And maybe we just haven't gotten there yet, because we're still trying to figure out our core brands. And
Sure.
even like at 10 Barrel, we're brewing different things all the time.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pay attention and get that kind of deep into a beer unless you've brewed it over and over and over and over, at least in my mind. And so maybe we just haven't gotten to that point yet.
Sure. So not to pigeonhole yourself, but if you were to kind of look at the basic ingredients that go into beer, water, yeast, hops, barley, malted, if you had to say that you are a brewer that like one of those four things is really your thing, is there anyone that stands out over the other, or do you you just kind of know them all? Is there like a strength or a weakness in any of those elements with what you're bringing to the table?
I would say my weakness is probably new hop varieties and some of the newer hop products. Like I'm certainly playing catch up with that, and having, almost a year off was terrifying to me because I felt like I lost so much knowledge and so much momentum during that downtime. And I was, constantly looking online, trying to at least be educating myself during that downtime. So I would say hops is probably not as strong as others. And I think I probably used to be better at kind of water, like really using water salts to help differentiate my beers. And now I think our beers are just differentiated other ways. Sure. Like you just don't see a lot of minerality these days in beers. So we've kind of backed off of that. And I mean, in some things I will add some, but it's much less than like the days at Ben Brewing Company.
Sure. And this question is, don't let this question sound too specific to you. You can answer in generality. So I've brewed the majority of my career in Michigan, and then here in Southern Ohio. And I have dealt with some of apparently the hardest water. I remember at one point, God bless him, old John Palmer, years ago, I shot him a water profile for a place I was brewing at. I had only met him once, but like a Facebook message, he gets back to me immediately. And then he's like, well, this water profile doesn't make any sense. It should just turn to scale immediately. And I'm like, it does. So we can just talk in broad strokes. So for me, I've brewed with like super high alkalinity water, tons of temporary hardness. I'm throwing the scale everywhere with it. What's the water generally like out in your area?
It's good. There is hardly anything in it. It is a blank
so
canvas,
awesome.
which is so nice.
I'm so jealous.
I mean, we can just add nothing and it still tastes fine.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That is, I'm jealous. That's a cool thing. That's a cool thing. So do you feel as if the work that you do on the water side of things is a major player of what you're bringing to the table with your beers, or does the water in your area just kind of allow you to roll with it?
I think the water allows us to roll with it. Like I said, in the past, I would add a lot more salts because I worked at a brewery where there was one major yeast strain. Very rarely did I have more than one, and I needed to differentiate the beers.
Yes.
Whereas now, yeast strains are a little bit easier to come by for us. So
yeah,
I like to use the different yeast strains, I think, more than anything to differentiate the beers.
I love that you mentioned that, because there's a period when I was working at the brewery that I came down here to work for. When we moved down here, I was going to have on a Helles, a rice lager, and something else pale that was going to be Pils based. And I was kind of thinking, I'm like, I had to use all the same strains. So I'm like, I need to do something a little bit different on the water side. I need to like make a little elbow room and not like go crazy, but like, I do think especially with the rising popularity of lager and light lager, we see more of those handles being eaten up with beers like that. if you are in a situation where you're running one strain, that is something that you can certainly leverage. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a tool in your toolbox to be able to pull out,
Mm-hmm.
and it helps you with that differentiation.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of like brewing salts and everything like that, we've talked about IPA. You know, hazy in particular is a style that some people have gone absolutely bonkers with the volume of chloride that they're shoving into beers like that. So just kind of in general, I'm interested when you say you have 3 IPAs on and you're in Bend. You know, a lot of places that I go now that are more in my neck of the woods, if there's 3 IPAs on, most of them are hazy. What does that IPA scene look like by you for people that aren't in Bend all the time?
You know, West Coast certainly is making a very nice, strong comeback.
Do you love that? Is West Coast your IPA, or are you a hazy woman?
I like them both.
Yes. Yeah.
It just depends. I really do like hazies a lot. I love the biotransformation, what it does to hops. And of course, we've taken that and used that in our West Coast to get them kind of fruitier and more tropical.
Yeah,
and I really have enjoyed learning about all of those different ways to do it. I think we're up to probably 5 or 6 IPAs now. That was just to open. I think we have 2 hazies on, 2 West Coast, and a pale ale, and another one that I can't really. It's more of like an American. It has a little bit more body and malt backbone to it. But the West Coast, I do love it. However, it's so different. We can say it's making a comeback, but it's so different than what we were doing in the, you know, like mid 2000s. So different.
Absolutely. You know, yeah.
Those were, when I brew those now, I'm like, how did we drink this? I don't even know how I drank it. It's so bitter.
Well, you know, I think it's interesting, especially when I feel like I talk to experienced brewers in particular. I can get more negative feedback about hazy beers, about hazy IPA. And sometimes people just like to be negative. But what I thought people were missing the boat on is to me, the big win for beer with the evolution of hazy IPA was, I feel as if we learned more than ever about what is going on with the hop at different portions of the process, at different temperatures, at different contact times. You don't have to like this style, but look at what we understand now, and then just put that in your tool belt. We can do a lot of things with this, right? So just to say, oh, that's, you know, and listen, I've drank plenty of hazies that were 50%, you know, slurry or whatever. So, I mean, we've all had those beers, but there's a lot of great research and knowledge that has come out of this push. And then, like you said, how we can be implementing some of these things like in a West Coast build. It's all, and I feel like when people get too like grumpy about it, they're missing out on the opportunity, right? So I think that's awesome to see that you're implementing those things in different ways.
Yeah, I love it. Any chance I can get to learn new techniques and then the science behind it, I get really excited. And I remember when we first decided to work on hazies, it was still pretty early on, and really they were only available on the East Coast. So we took a brewer's trip. I think there was like 6 of us. We went to the East Coast and just went to a bunch of breweries and really immersed ourselves. That's all we drank for like a week and a half. And then even when we came back, like our brewers were still like making an IPA like they'd always made it, and then crossing their fingers that it would be hazy. And I was like, guys,
I've been there. Yeah.
Like, that's not what we drank when we were there. And so, you know, that's when I sat down, I did the research. I figured out how to make it. And then I can remember I made one, like I don't know, at a time when no one else was around in the brewery. And then when everybody got back, they were like, oh my gosh, have you smelled that fermenter? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
What did you do? And I was
Yeah.
like, I did some research and learned how to make a hazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that hard.
I love it. I love it. So when hazies, I remember I went to, it was CBC a few years ago, and it was like the Crosby booth, like outside the trade show, and they've got, you know, a billion beers on tap, and all the brewers are out there having beers and whatever. And I don't do like a lot of traveling. Well, actually, so these days I can't drink beer at all. I developed like a gluten intolerance, and it's not good at all. So
I'm
anyways,
sorry.
it honestly, there's times because I can have a cocktail. It's not the alcohol. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can drink liquor, I could drink seltzer, whatever. But like, first of all, I can't share something with people, and I can't accept hospitality from my fellow brewers. And that's the thing that, like, it almost makes me emotional talking about it right now, because that's the thing that's the magic to me, right? Like, getting together with the brewer. I have a dear friend down in North Carolina, and he comes up sometimes, and he would just bring up every single beer he has on tap, and we'd sit down at the table, and we're pouring 2 ounces, and we're smelling and talking process. There's few things in this world that I love more than that. Okay, that's the best thing. But anyways, we're out here and we're tasting all these hazies and whatever. And an issue that I can have with hazy sometimes is I feel as if I can get burnt out on what appears to me to be the same combination of hop ester, derivative of those London strains, and then citrus slash mosaic. And don't get me wrong, those beers are great. But I feel like you can actually fatigue your palate with those. Do you know what have you experienced that with drinking some of those styles? Well, okay,
definitely.
so
They all taste
the
same.
Okay, so but and I'm not even trying to go like that, like boil it down that far. How do you, in your mind, how do you brew those beers? Because, and this is going to be the wrong terminology, but it's similar enough. Sometimes that ester hop combination can almost become like cloying, and that's not right, because it's a different thing, but it can become overwhelming. In your mind, how can you prevent yourself from building that into a beer? Is that a residual sweetness thing? Is that a varietal choice, a harvest thing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it could be both. To me, when those beers first came out, you know, they had really high terminal gravities. Some of them were 5, some were 6. Like, that does not bode well for someone who wants to come in and have a couple beers. You just get really full. And then we were adding lactose to them. And so they had this sweetness. And I think that is why in the Pacific Northwest, it took a really long time for hazies to catch on compared to the rest of the country. And it was the drinkability issue. So I think here, a lot of us have started to dry those beers out a lot more. So they'll be in the 3 to 3.5 Plato. And then definitely differentiating the hops, like putting in, like, you can still put in your Citra and Mosaic, because let's face it, they are kind of the most successful hops for that type of style. But put something else in there. Throw some El Dorado in, you know, like mix it up a little bit. And that's, you know, one thing that's super fun when you're designing like a one-off beer and you need to use some hops that you've never used before. It's super easy just to plug and play them into something like that. And because you know the Citra Mosaic part so well, you can really see where that other hop comes in and shines.
You mentioned El Dorado. You mentioned El Dorado. Are you an El Dorado fan?
I do like El Dorado, and I mention it because we ended up adding that to our hazy.
What do you so first of all, where are you? It doesn't have to be say the grower, but what region is that harvested out of? The El Dorado that you're using, or is it
I
all
have
over?
no idea. I
Okay,
have no
I
idea.
didn't know if
We
it was Oregon or
inherited,
Washington.
yeah.
Okay.
I would assume Washington.
Sure.
We inherited a bunch of hops that we are going through. So who knows where they came from.
Yeah. The crop of El Dorado that you're working with, what do you feel like you get out of that hop?
I think there's a nice little berry component that kind of balances everything, and it just throws something in there that, is different.
Sure.
And I like that.
Sure.
But, we'll do that. We will just throw in different hops just to see what shines. Like, throw it against the wall, see what sticks and what doesn't.
Sure. Do you feel as if you could kind of speak maybe in some broad strokes about the way you approach hopping when it comes to the hazy beers that you do? I know that I've tried many different things. I've tried anything from varying my whirlpool temperatures, my whirlpool rests, the volume in that whirlpool, everything like that, and done dry hopping at different stages. What are some kind of big picture bullet points on what you find success with in that range?
So we're adding all of our hops during whirlpool. I've thought about, getting some kind of hop oil and adding it in the beginning, and I just haven't pulled the trigger on it, just to get some like a base layer of bitterness in there. We'll cool to 180 to 185. We've kind of gone down to 160 and then realized I think we liked it better in that 180 to 185 range.
Sure.
But I don't feel like we do anything special.
Sure. Are you accomplishing that temperature drop by dilution with cold water or by knocking it through the heat exchanger and back in? How are you accomplishing that?
Yeah, in general, we'll do the heat exchanger. If we would add hops in the beginning, the only way we would have would be to top it up with cold water.
Sure.
And I'm not, depending on the size, we'd have to do a pretty small batch to get it cold enough.
Yeah. It's true. I was doing that. So I was on a 15-barrel system at the time. And one time I tried to knock it down with my CLT and I just didn't like it. I didn't like the process of it, the way it worked. It wasn't as effective as I wanted to. And we really did have to run that back through. I was doing probably like a smallish, like just little knock at 60 minutes on that. So I did have like a really small bittering addition for maybe 5 IBU. And I felt comfortable with that volume of green matter in the kettle, which is very minimal. You know what I mean? Have you ever had any issues with getting your heat exchanger? People are always worried about kind of clogging up that heat exchanger, losing flow in heat exchanger. Has that ever been an issue for you utilizing that technique?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like, what happened? My flow meter stopped. Oops.
Yeah.
That is not a good problem to have at all.
It does. So I started recording myself brewing back in 2022 when I started doing the YouTube channel. And I don't think you can tell because in the brewery, I don't know, there's different HVAC situations in different breweries. In general, unless it was the dead of winter, it was always hot as hell in the brewery that I was working in. And every time I was doing a technique like that, I hadn't done it a ton. And the things that can happen surrounding it, right? I swear I was always sweating harder. I'm sitting there recording myself on that stupid little iPhone 8, sweating like a hog, trying to knock that thing through the heat X, hoping it doesn't clog up. That's funny. You had mentioned there are a lot of different products out on the market right now, both on the hop side, kind of the liquid side, that can be added on the cold side. There are, and this is over the last few years, and people have been using it for longer, but I think kind of hitting more of the mainstream conversation with some things surrounding enzymes on the cold side, with whether that be ALDC, things like that. How much do you play with things like enzymes in the brew house?
I mean, throughout the years, on and off, it kind of cycles. We definitely do ALDC, and I feel like we were probably one of the first brewery using it. I adopted that really early on. Like as soon as I learned about it, I started
Sure.
buying it. And then
Yeah.
we went through a period where we didn't really feel like, is it really doing anything?
Sure.
We don't know. And then now we've kind of gone back to using it again, especially during the dry hops. We'll throw some in.
That was kind of my follow-up on it. What do you think is the best use case? Is it something that you're really just primarily using in dry hop beers? Are you using it in lagers?
You know, we just don't have that big of a diacetyl issue in this brewery yet. And so I feel like if it ain't broke, don't fix it type deal.
Sure.
But we have had what I consider to be some hop creep issues. At least I think they're hop creep issues, where I think it's useful to revisit that and use it.
What are you seeing when you say you feel as if you may be seeing some hop creep issues? Is it like some of the typical re-fermentation stuff? Or or drier, or like driving the final gravity lower than expected?
No, it's one of those things like the batch is almost gone. There's 3 kegs left.
Sure.
And then you revisit it, you taste it, and it's like, oh, that has a little sweetness in there that should not be there. Like you can just start to get diacetyl, and it's like, wait a minute, this batch is almost gone. This should not be here. And so it kind of has to be that.
Sure. First of all, thank you. I mean, I don't think it's good to have people be honest about something. And that's very cool that you would say that, hey, yeah, that's kind of like, that's because listen, like it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, so you recognize it. And so it's like, all right, let's start making some moves to address. I love that. I think that's very cool. You had mentioned, we kind of talked about diacetyl, and we had mentioned lagers as well. Obviously, you know, I feel as if lagers are really booming right now. And you had mentioned not really having an issue with diacetyl in the brew house. What are some of your go-to lager strains?
I think right now we're obsessing over 3470 and finding the right one. So we've taken a little bit of a different approach with this brewery in that we're somewhat pressing the easy button as far as yeast goes. And we've gone to using more dried than we have in the past, especially
Tonya,
for dry hop beers.
Cool. Okay. This is cool. Do you mind saying what dry strains you're using? Or I mean, like the brand? You don't have to.
So we've been using AEB. It's very economical.
Yes.
And we feel like that we can do a one and done pitch, and it's not breaking the bank.
Yes.
You know, we don't have to worry about if it goes down the drain. We don't really have a way to count right now. I have to take it to 10 barrel and run it through the lab to have them do that at the moment until we get that set up. So, you know, it's like an easy way to just not have to repitch yeast. I would say that some of the strains we like, and it's just like, you know, any other yeast company, you can order the same strain and it's different from every company. And I think it's that way with dried as well. And so we're trying to figure out which lager strains we like from each company.
Sure. What do you love about 3470? Just in general, yeah.
When it's a 3470 that works right in my mind, there's this such a pretty, delicate hop character that comes from it. Like it's really floral, which I am always attracted to beers like that have this beautiful floral, a little kind of white winey character that I feel like sometimes I get them and it, like the yeast character is just thud. It's just dull. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have those dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they will develop it later on, but I'm impatient. I like it right off the bat.
Sure. Sure. Um, Lager brewing is fascinating because I think it is probably the most the area with the most dogmatic opinions among
Sure.
brewers. So first of all, talking about using dry yeast, there's some people that think that it's impossible to do it right using dry yeast. You know, again, I think it's an area that people get very dogmatic. What are some of your kind of big picture approaches on the lager side? Because when I came up, when I was learning things, that lager strain had better be pitched cold. Obviously appropriate cell count, all that stuff. There's things that make sense. Yes, you want healthy, viable yeast and an appropriate pitching rate, all that stuff. Are you very much saying, "Oh, I'm pitching at 48F and I'm holding it there until eternity," or do you pitch warmer? Do you ramp up? What are some of your approaches to lager brewing?
I pitch cooler, but not that cool, not
Mm-hmm.
48, more in
Sure.
the early 50s. And it
Mm-hmm.
really depends on the beer, what we're doing.
Sure.
Like for my Japanese lager, I think it's 52.
Uh-huh.
And I hold it there. I don't
Yep.
usually ramp up. I don't do a diacetyl rest up. I just leave it and it never has a problem.
Absolutely. So when one of the other things that can be difficult to when I was coming up, I was always taught that, on the yeast side, it's all about healthy, viable yeast, an appropriate pitch, good nutrient, and oxygen.
Mhm.
Sometimes when you look at, well, I don't know if it's sometimes, I think it's almost always on dry packaging, it says that oxygenation is not necessarily a necessity when you are knocking those out. So when you are utilizing dry yeast, whether it be ale or lager strain, are you using oxygen on the day where you're dry pitching?
We don't.
Get it,
And,
Tonya. There you go.
and if you would have told me 10 years ago I would
I
be doing
know,
this, I would have been
right?
like, no way.
I
No
know.
way.
I would have said, "Oh, I quit caring. I quit caring about what I was doing because that was so much of everything." I mean, I remember reading the yeast book that's over on my shelf right over here. And first of all, I mean, listen. I'm not to say whatever, but the yeast book says that if you pitch dry yeast into your cooled wort, you're going to have 50% mortality rate. And that was
Right.
my gospel for like
Yep.
15 years. And
Yeah,
then
we would temper it.
oh, dude,
We would
yes,
do,
dude.
like, I hated using dry yeast because it was such a process.
Yes.
Now it's like dump it in the top, go on about your day. Go clean your kettle.
Well, and so that's one of the things. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm going to be doing a talk at a conference here, and like I view it the same way, like or in a similar way. Like there was a lot of things, especially like if I was going to do something fruited or it was going to get an adjunct, I just always had some dry yeast on hand for just one for the flexibility. You never know what's going to happen. You can always have a fail safe. It'll ferment. It's going to be servable, X, Y, and Z, right? So when did you like kind of have this insane about face when it comes to dry yeast, no oxygen, all this stuff?
I would say it was probably the last 2 years at 10 Barrel, and it mainly started off with hazy because it was really hard. Production was doing the hazies. We had how we did it was down, like how they harvested it. It was crazy, but it worked. And it was just really hard to get when we needed it.
Yes.
And so I started buying dried yeast because I could have it on hand. And I felt like for the hazies, it's fine. It'll work. And it did. And then we really liked it. And we liked it just as well as any yeast that we were buying. And so it was like, okay, well, I like this. Let's try something else. And, then we bought the Chico, and it was like, okay, well, this is working really well in our regular IPAs, and this is easy. And we did have one brewer who would like pester us all the time for yeast.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say pester, but sometimes people don't understand what they're asking. Like, you're asking me to physically go harvest you yeast, and you're asking more than once a month. And so then it was like, oh, hey, we're buying this. You should buy it too.
Well, hey, listen, apologies to the chat. There's a ton of questions there, and I don't have too much time to go. And I am thankful for seeing everybody in there this evening. Hopefully you're all doing well. So this cracks me up. This cracks me up so much. And it's so cool to hear that this is your experience with this, because again, it's this notion that has been drilled into so many of us. So a couple of things. If I ever ask you a question and it's not like something that you feel as if you can share or don't want to share, whatever, just don't. But could you share the dry hazy strain that was working well for you?
It's from AEB.
Oh, it's the AEB.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's whatever their London strain is. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but
that's something I need to dig in on, because I do like behind the scenes, like pro brewing stuff, and I want to get into one of those yeast drying labs, and I know I'm sure there's stuff that's like, they can't show me everything, but I want to see that stuff. I think that's fascinating.
I'm really excited about the Berkeley dried yeast, so I can't wait for them to get that into my hands. They were really excited when I think it's released. Okay. Because I learned about it earlier this summer. They came in and were just chit-chatting, checking out the brewery.
Sure.
And they were so excited to hear that I was using dried yeast, and then I was open to it. And I'm just waiting for them to send me a box. Please send me a box for please.
I tell you what, I mean, the whole my whole viewpoint on that has certainly changed. That was interesting to hear you echo that. So when we were talking about lager yeast, you had talked about 3470. Do you ever? So my favorite lager strain is it's like the Augustiner strain. If Imperial carries it, it's called Harvest. Mm-hmm. I forget what the other one. I love that lager strain because for me, it is not as neutral as 3470, and I feel as if the components that it generates during fermentation are very malt friendly. Okay, so I feel as if
I've used that strain a lot.
Mm-hmm. What's your take on it?
However, so I do agree that it does have it really aids in that malt complexity. Mm-hmm. Part of it, and I used to use it for my Japanese lager all the time, or rice lager, and I felt like it wasn't working in that beer because I like those kind of delicate floral notes, and I felt like it wasn't presenting in a way that I needed it to.
Do you feel as if it was clouding those? Did you feel as if it was masking some of the elements on that beer that you wanted to feature? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for that particular beer. I have used that strain though a lot and very successfully.
Well, and it's a really I find it's a very easy strain to use as far as harvesting, repitching, and even as far as temperature range. I feel as if there's a little bit more elbow room So let me throw that off of you when it comes to lager strains, and again taking a very old school notion of, or at least the way that the stuff I grew up reading, it was always one thing. Do you feel as if there is a wider range with lager strains that people don't allow themselves to consider? Or do you really feel as if the sweet spot for those lager strains really tends to be on the lower end of the spectrum?
That I really love using lager strains for something that's more malty, like a Doppelbock. Less so for an Oktoberfest because I think they've changed so much. But even like if you do an Oktoberfest that's more like a Helles, then that's when I would use that yeast strain to kind of just differentiate it a little bit, make the malt more of a showpiece in a fest beer. So I think there's lots of different things you can look at with those yeast to pick out what you particularly want to showcase in your own beer, in whatever style that is. And I don't think that in my mind, there's not a one size fits all.
Sure. Well, I can't say this because I feel this way about a lot of your styles, but I absolutely love rice lager, and I love it for a lot of different reasons. I started making one at Cartridge when I was down here, and it was funny because there was some real resistance from ownership, because I think ownership kind of wanted to be like more like one of those hot boy breweries where they have people lined up around the block for your 15 pounds per barrel dry hop thing that was canned 2 seconds ago. Like he wanted that kind of thing. But we had like a group of like older people that wanted lager, you know what I mean? And so like I made one lager that went well, and then I did another one that went well, and then I'm like, hey, can I do like a rice lager? And he's like, well, fine, I guess we might as well. But anyways, well, then of course rice lager was the number one beer in the tap room, right? Because it's the lightest thing. So I absolutely love that style, both because I feel like it's in an echelon of beer styles that really show you the skill of the brewer. Right. There's some styles where you can kind of get by with a little less technical prowess, with a little less artistic understanding of what you're doing. But I think that rice lager is in that, well, I don't know if upper, but it is in the upper echelon of beers that like requires all those things to be on point. Right. So just kind of big picture on rice lager. How much rice do you have in that beer? Like what kind of rice product? Have you used different rice products in it? Just kind of talk me around like that beer, big picture even.
I do flaked rice. It's just, and I'll add it on top of the mash.
Why do you like to add it on top of the mash?
Well, it kind of came from at 10 Barrel, the way the mash lauter was designed is it would just go straight to the bottom underneath the plates and just clog everything up. And so, by the time it made it through the whole process to mash in, it was dust, and then it would just settle to the bottom. And so just putting it in manually on top just seemed to keep it a little more separated. We don't have as much of a problem at this brewery as we had there, but certainly it just helps with the flow.
Is there some a type that you like more? Because I know like I've used some that basically just looks like flakes, like, and really fine flakes even. And then I've had some that just look like I just opened up a bag of like Uncle Ben's or something, and I'm like, what is this? And I wasn't sure. So like, what do you like to use in that beer for rice?
I prefer Breeze. The Breeze flakes, because it's not like nice looking flakes. There isn't a lot of dust. It's very consistent, and it's in 25-pound bags, which is super easy to just throw in on top. You don't have to scoop it out or anything. If you're me,
Ballpark percentage on how much rice you like to have in those beers?
I want to say it's just under 20%. So, there isn't much to that grist. It's
Sure.
just some Pilsner, some
Yeah.
rice. I think I've
Domestic or
added,
European Pilsner?
I usually use Fireman for
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, that's just my go-to in
Yep.
general. I don't know if I've made it with anything else, to be honest with you.
Now, one time
Just,
when I
just
was
always
doing
have it.
mine, I had played around between doing it with just like a domestic pills, like a Canadian grown and malted pills, and then one time I just had Barca pills in house, and I had done like a blend of that and domestic, and then I did all Barca once, and I felt like I had kind of gone too far when I had
Yeah.
done all Barca. I'm like, oh, this tastes like a continental, like it's lighter for
Yeah.
sure, you know what I mean, but this tastes more like a German lager than something else. Okay, so that's cool. So just kind of like general build on that beer. What's the ABV on it, and then kind of the IBU, and then final density. And I'm sorry if I'm just springing it on you, but even if it's ballpark, I'm fine. I right
I
now
have
I
to think
feel
about it.
like, so this is how my brain works, and I'm sorry because I've not asked you one question that was on the thing, and I know that you like to be prepared, and you could just be hating the last 75 minutes. And I apologize. I hope I haven't set you up, but this is
No,
just
it's
the way my
fine.
brain works when we're talking beer. So, because I know like the rice lager I was doing, I think it was like around 4.2. And we went with, I think it was like a 12, 13 IBU beer. And that would go down to sometimes 1.5 Plato. That was kind of the parameters that I was playing with the beer like that. Is that ballpark of what you're running to?
I would say I have worked more on this beer than any beer ever.
Okay.
Ever,
Okay.
ever. Normally, I get a beer within 3 or 4 brews.
Mm-hmm.
I know where it's going. I know where
Yeah.
it should land. But this one, I've kind of gone up with terminal, down with terminal, more acidity, less acidity. Like I've just tried so many things with it. Where we like it is 1.8 Plato, which is probably a little higher than a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people. We
Mm-hmm.
are down at 4.5%. And I think the IBUs that I settled on were around 16 or 17.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. 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 Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. Okay, so I'm also realizing that I've just been like going crazy, asking you all my brewer conversational questions. I do want to dig a bit more into specifically some things that you have going on with Up Liquids as well. One of the things that I was excited to hear, and especially with my glutinous condition, I know that you are doing some session meads there and some other alcohols. Can you dip into some of the things that you are doing outside of beer?
Yeah, we are definitely working on seltzers, and that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
Benny, who I mentioned earlier, who was down in San Diego. That's kind of his thing. He developed
Mm-hmm.
it for 10 Barrel, so now he's designing ours. He likes to rotate the flavors all the time, so
Mm-hmm.
they're kind of here and gone pretty quickly.
Sure.
And to me, it's kind of amazing how much of it we sell. I've been surprised because even though at 10 Barrel, I looked at the inventory on a weekly basis. Seltzers, for some reason, just never really
Yeah.
I don't make them. Doesn't matter. I care more
Yeah.
about the beer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those have been really fun to work on, and they've kind of captivated me. And I would like to start doing some blends with those as well. I think the base is, if you can get a neutral base, there's just so much that you can do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then as far as the mead, that is also something that we did at 10 Barrel periodically. One of the guys loves to do mead, and his name is Caleb, and he actually came here and we didn't really brew it, but we
Sure.
made the mead together. And so it has probably another 2 months to condition. It needs a long conditioning time, even for a session. But it's one of those things I just love. And we used meadow foam honey, which is from the Willamette Valley.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a nice little story. It's not
Mm-hmm.
your typical honey. It has
Sure.
some really cool, like almost like sugary cotton candy, marshmallow notes. And I think I prefer session meads over regular meads, and I might be in the minority, but I just really feel like it showcases the honey in a much better light. Like you can really tell the difference in honey varietals over something that has so much kind of fusels and just higher alcohols that it just kind of mask the honey part for me. So I really like how you can delve in and use different honey varietals to kind of it's an easy showcase, I guess. Sure. Is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. When you say session mead, what is the ABV of those meads typically?
I think we settled on 5.5.
Oh wow, that actually is. That is actually sessionable. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, especially in the world of mead, for sure.
And they're just super fun. They're, they have especially we carbonate them, and it's just delicious. They're
like
so
fully,
yummy.
like gently carbonated, or like a full beer carb or Belgian carb. Like what do you think?
less than beer. I would say it was probably, I don't know, under 2, 1.8, something like that.
Do you sell it by the pint?
We plan on, selling it by the pint.
Yeah. That's cool. What do you think is, you had said that it requires some additional maturation time, and maybe this is just because of a hole in my brewing knowledge or something like that. I've always attributed that notion of conditioning for beers or for alcoholic beverages to be tied almost explicitly to ABV. Okay, so in my mind, I'm like, okay, it's a higher ABV beer. It's going to require more time conditioning. Like I feel as if this 4% beer is going to hit its prime before this 10% beer is, right? And so that's just kind of what I've run with. But since you're talking about a session mead, if you could talk about what you feel as if are the metrics that like require that time, what happens to it, or even just from a sensory standpoint, like what happens to that product in that conditioning. Am I making sense?
Yeah. So
okay. Right.
I think anytime you're doing a fermentation that's all sugar, like you're going to have issues. Yeast just doesn't like it. It's like going to a buffet of all desserts. It's good for a minute, but it's not going to really satisfy you. It's not going to take the place of dinner. It's just sugar. And I think yeast just doesn't like it. And it just kind of throws some off things, and it takes it a while to mature and age out of those, to break them down, break down all those things that you don't like, and then, put them back together in a different way. This just tastes better.
Do you filter beers there?
We do have a filter. It is a plate.
Why do you say it like that?
Because everybody poo-poos filters, and
it's so dumb when they do. It's so okay.
Excited.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
One of my friends actually gave us a plate and frame filter. He's like, if you can get this out of my brewery this week, you can have it. He's like, I will never use it. I was like, gladly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're not going to buy a centrifuge anytime soon.
Sure.
So it's our one way to clear beers up in a good amount of time. So, we're not sitting on them forever. I feel like we have a fair amount of tank space, but you're always going to be in a hurry and need it sooner than it will take to clear up in a brew pub setting. So I like having it around.
I think sometimes people can get so dogmatic about some stuff. I'm sorry. There's certain beers that when you can just rip that thing right down to brilliant, You should, because it's
Yeah,
beautiful, right?
it
Like
really
there's
is.
and I feel like sometimes with, okay, so now I was complaining about what I felt were bad takes about hazy beer. I do think that hazy beer has made uh non-clear beer less necessary in the eyes of some people, at least as far as their expectations. And maybe that's why it makes me nostalgic for or love, like when I can get that pale lager in front of me and it's just crystal clear. That's
Yeah.
beautiful, right? Like there's something to that, absolutely. So I was wondering, when you were talking about like the sugar wash that you're doing for seltzer, which I'm assuming it's a sugar wash, and then with the mead, are those are I'm assuming the seltzer side is filtered, correct?
We did not filter it because we are adding, either juice
There you go, makes sense. Yep,
or puree on
yep,
our end instead of
yep,
just adding flavors. If we
yep,
were just adding flavors, then we certainly would. But it's
yep,
kind of like, well, it's going to be hazy anyway.
yes, yep.
Let's just
Are
not.
you stabilizing when you do things like that in that seltzer product?
We are only serving it in house cold, so we
Uh-huh.
don't.
Awesome.
And we're just blending small batches of it.
I love it.
So I feel pretty comfortable. pH is where it needs to be, so I feel
Yeah,
comfortable in doing that. We aren't selling
absolutely.
them out of the house though.
Yeah. And this is not a podcast about Adam's dietary issues, but I've also found that I can't deal with a lot of the so I did like a just like I stripped down my diet to very basic things and started adding things back. A lot of the preservative stuff bothers me. And like
Yeah.
even just from like I feel like depressed. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's weird. And so like I'm always excited when I can go into a place and say, oh, like, hey, I know I can actually drink that because either it's gluten-free or it doesn't have, some of the stabilizer stuff
Yeah.
that can bug me as well. Again, I didn't think I was going to talk about this as much as I did. Rounding back, because I do want to respect your time, I have to tell you right now, I have had the most fun. I feel like I have
Oh, nice.
been talking. I feel like I've been talking to you like an amped up idiot because I've been laughing so much and I've been so excited. But this has just been such a fun conversation. I did want to mention in particular, I mentioned the bio that you are a brewer owner there at Up Liquids. I would love for you to tell me two things. What about Up is the thing that you are most excited about, and then the other thing is what do you love about brewing in Bend?
Oh gosh. Um, so what do I love about Up? I think that our goal is to bring people together over memorable drinking experiences. And I
Mm,
just love that concept because there's been so many times in my career that people bring up these one-off beers that I did that they know everything about. They remember who they were talking to when they
mm,
had it, when they drank it, what they were talking about, what they were wearing. I mean, it just like solidified this memory that otherwise would just been another night out. And they
yes.
remember the name of the beer. And to me, that's incredible that I
Hmm.
can put something in front of someone that is going to change the way they think about beer.
Uh-huh.
So that's our
Uh-huh.
goal.
I love it.
And
I-
and I definitely think that in like in today's where we are with the industry, I think what we need to do is really concentrate on education.
mhm.
I think there are very few brewers that were around and working in breweries in the late 90s. I mean, that's what
Mhm.
we had to do. You
Yes.
had to explain to people what this beer is that you're putting in front of them because they've never had anything like it before. And I think that this is a whole new generation coming in, and they don't understand it. Like they saw their parents drinking it, but it doesn't have that same novelty as when we first started. And I think that we need to cut back to basics and re-educate everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of opportunity in that. You can really build connection through educating people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, listen.
What was your second question?
What do you love about Brewing in Bend?
Oh, what do I love about Brewing in Bend?
Because you really, I mean, you could have gone, and maybe it was something that I listened to or read, but like you could have gone other places. You know what I mean? Like it appears as if your resume is robust enough to earn employment somewhere else, but you're in Bend.
Well, I love Bend, and I didn't want to leave Bend. But I think Brewing in Bend has been such a great opportunity for me. I mean, people in Bend, of course, I'm probably a little different. I stick out in a crowd. Over the years, they've gotten to know my name. There's been enough articles, and I've been on the news enough times that they know my name. And it's just so cool that so many people know who I am. They come here for the beers that I make. They followed me at 10 Barrel. They followed me at Bend Brewing Company. And they've been drinking these beers for, I don't know, since 2002. Yeah. So it's just one of those things. I just love the fact that I can have a beer dinner, and there are people that have been following me through all these different employment opportunities that I've had, and they remember beers from the Wayback Machine. And I love it when someone mentions something that I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Maybe I need to revisit that, pull up, go through some of the like 20 different recipe logs until I find that recipe and think about, oh, how can I update it? That's pretty cool.
For sure. Well, I love it. This has been an absolute blast. It's just been, I'm very grateful that you made time to chat with us today. How can we follow Up Liquids on the internet?
So it is upliquids.com. I encourage everyone to look at our Instagram. We try to make it fun. If we can put a smile on your
Instagram
face
is so good. Your Instagram is so good. And you know why? Because you probably do, but you show your people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Like, okay, yeah, you can show a picture of a pint and a burger or something like that, but show me your people. I go through your Instagram, and I don't know anybody's names, but like I see all the people. You know what I mean? And everybody's part of it. You do things that are fun. And I love when I see people using social media that way, because show me who's doing something, like let me connect with something, just, I don't know. I love it. You do a wonderful job.
I mean, the most important part to us is to make sure that people in Bend know where we're at and they come in and visit. And that was one way that we felt like we could kind of differentiate ourselves. Everybody's doing sports videos. Everybody's doing the burger and the beer. And we all have big personalities, and it's kind of an easy thing for us to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily our social media girl is amazing, and we love her, and it's been good all around.
Well, that's fantastic.
Shout out, Brindle.
Awesome. And please give them a follow when you get into Bend. Make sure to check them out. Tonya, if you can just hold on just for a moment after we go off air, I'd just like to chat with you real quick. To everybody in the chat, the chat was blowing up with questions today, everybody. I'm very, very grateful to see all of you in here. It's tough. It's tough when I have an interview with somebody that goes like this. It's hard when you're talking with the person to get in the chat too. So I appreciate everybody's patience with me there. But show some love to my beautiful sponsor, Blickman. Check out the Ohio Craft Brewers Conference that is coming up end of January next week. Speaking of which, I'm going to be speaking to Ashley Rose of the Ohio Brewers Association. And we are going to be talking about her role with the organization. The conference, that is going to be 12/15. So December 15th at noon, a little early. Have some lunch with me. And we'll chat with Ashley. And we're rolling into the holidays. So if I don't see you soon, love to you and your families. Be good to your people. And I hope you enjoy your holidays. Have a good night, everybody.
This feeling's deeper than an ocean, with a groove that's beating harder than my heart. So baby, now just hear me out. No, don't fear this emotion, 'cause you can't stop the fire